I probably have I'm guessing, but about 70,000 miles on this motor since I've had it.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Tyler. I'm here with Eric Althen, and we're going to sit down and get to know his 1978 Shovelhead today.
Cool.
Cool. So you've had this bike for over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Yeah. I got it in 2000. I built it the first time. Came from a friend of mine that rode it through the 90s, and he and I would drag race all the time. I had an FXR at the time, and he had this thing, and I'd beat him, then he'd beat me, and then I'd bend a valve and have to take my Evo apart, and then I put high compression pistons in that, and then beat him, and then he'd do something, kind of back and forth. That was the nature of riding motorcycles back in the 90s, early 2000s.
And then, so after the FXR, you were riding some sport bikes.
Right.
And then, how come a Shovelhead?
The Shovelhead is my favorite Harley motor for sure. That's the bike that when I was in high school, that was the bike. It was the Harley that I grew up looking at. All the way, because my first Harley I bought in 1982. It was a 78 Ironhead Sportster. Couldn't afford a Shovelhead back then because they were like $2,500.
Oh man!
And but that from the whole time early years riding the Shovelhead, that was the bike, and I think it's the sexiest motor that they've ever made. They run awesome. They you can work on them, in your garage, all that stuff. I think it's probably my favorite motor that Harley makes or made. Yep.
And how was it put together the first time?
So the first time I built it, I had it was a long bike. So early 2000s, that was kind of the style. So I had a Craft Tech frame, kind of a shitty frame. They were inexpensive, fun to modify, cut them up, guilt-free. I cut the neck off, put the neck back on at 50 degrees, and then put 8-degree trees on it and a 20 over front end. So it was long, low, cool to ride, spool hub, jockey shift, kick only, a proper chopper, 200 rear tire. That's what you built. You know? STD heads, high compression pistons, 4 spark plugs, kick only. It was it was a tough guy, hot rod Harley,
Yeah.
And it was cool, super fun to ride, relatively fast, actually handled well. It was really cool. Cool. And then, like I was telling you, then round 2, when my boys got a little bit older and they wanted to ride it and they started getting into Harleys, and Bo wanted to ride this thing. He's like, Dad, let me take your chopper to high, he wanted to take it to high school, which I didn't have a problem with. But back then, long bike, jockey shift, no front brake. I just kind of felt irresponsible as a dad, even though Bo can ride the tires off of a motorcycle, as most of you guys know. Riding dirt bikes, growing up riding dirt bikes from little guy, Bo and Chase both. But I felt like that was just kind of irresponsible. I'm like, no, I need to make it's cool as a chopper, but it just felt ridiculous, So I cut the neck again, took it back to 45 degrees. I think I had a 12 over wide glide front end, put a front brake back on it, put a hand clutch back on it, and then I'm like, okay, ride the tires off of it, go have fun. But still, that's still that same Craft Tech frame, goofy, 200 rear tire, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
3-inch belt drive, which it still has on, which is kind of funny, kind of one of those carryover 90s parts, but I dig it.
Yeah.
It's cool. They're, big old fucking belt drive. They're kind of tough.
Absolutely.
And then going to Sturgis with those guys and going to watching Bo and Chase build motorcycles and build choppers and put them in bike shows, and riding to Sturgis and go to the Backstreet Chopper show, I kind of got inspired to do it again and like restyle it and make something kind of cool, like something that I kind of wanted to build back then, but I couldn't afford the frame. So I ended up finding this frame in a buddy's basement in his crawl space. And it's a Edlin frame from Sweden. It's a panhead replica frame. They're kind of cool because you can put an Evo in them. So they've got their clearance just enough. You can see how it's got just a little more, clearance than a OEM panhead wishbone frame. So if I wanted to, I could put an Evo in there. Not that I ever will, but. So I got this frame, which was kind of a really cool part that I always wanted, and that's where it started. And then both the wheels are 1977 Ironhead Sportster front wheel, 77 FLH 13-spoke mag rear wheel. It has a late 80s FLH front end on it with dual disc brakes. These are actually off my Evo. These brakes and rotors came off of my bagger. I was telling you that story, how I scored those cool Brembos for my bagger, and I'm like, sweet. So I got some extra brakes I'll throw on here. So it's got lots of stopping power. Cool PM rear brake that I got from Thomas Minor. I made my own controls. These are kind of fun to make. 2 pieces of metal with a piece of copper sandwiched in between. Of course, 90s speed holes. Everybody loved them speed holes back then. Drill fucking holes and everything. Cool exhaust. Made that exhaust. It's funny. Originally, they were just drag pipes. So they were shotgun style. So they were over under, and they were just straight pipes. So I rotated them around and put them flat this way. But they were still drag pipes, and they kind of turned out, like right kind of above where the rear axle would be. And they weren't connected right there. It didn't have that cool like crossover pipe right there. And it carbureted horrible. And that guy Phil Howell that I mentioned that helped me kind of put this motor together originally, I rode it over to his shop. And I'm like, man, I can't get this thing to carburate right. So he's like, let me come outside and look at it. We came outside. I mean, it took him 2 seconds. He's an old drag race guy. He looked at it. He's like, your rear pipe's too fucking short. And I'm like, well, shit, And he's like, you need 40 inches on a shovel head. If you're gonna run drag pipes, that's why all the old drag pipes, they were 40 inches, and they're both the same. One's like a champ. You start mixing them up and adding pipes, you're fucking with something.
Yeah.
They like 40 inches. And he's like, he could just looking at it, he's like, your rear pipe's too short. He's like, that's why it's not carbureting. I'm like, well, shit, man, what do I need to do? And he's like, make it 40 inches. I'm like, yeah, but they look cool. He's like, you want it to look cool, or do you want it to run right? and then he's like, you know what you could try? He's like, the Evos from the factory came with that crossover tube.
Yeah.
And so it kind of scavenges. One pipe will scavenge from the other pipe. He's like, they work great on an Evo. He's like, you can try to connect the two right there, do like a crossover, and effectively making the rear pipe longer. It might work, might not. And so just for the sake of keeping them the way they were styled, I added that crossover tube there. Unbelievable difference.
Really?
Yeah. It was amazing.
No way.
And so I rode it like that for many, many years. Just open pipes, but loud, and here like in Golden. If you get a ticket in Golden, it's a $150 ticket. So we kind of went from noisy loud bikes, and to all of our shit now has mufflers. They've all got we run them a little quieter. Anyways, a friend of mine, really good friend of mine, Andrew Haley, we were at a swap meet, and he had that Thunder header. So I brought it home, cut the exhaust apart, and then welded in that Thunder header. And now it's just it sounds good, runs better, way more bottom end than running just wide open drag pipes. It's got so much more lower end, and I don't think I give up anything on the top end. So yeah, actually cool. That's probably my favorite part on the whole bike is that exhaust system. So 2006, I had some friends that I was going to Sturgis with every year. That was my crew at the time. Still really good friends, but now they're older and nobody rides motorcycles anymore. It's funny. You guys, all you young guys will kind of see that. Guys get into the 40s and a lot of people bail. There's that 1%, man, that just diehards that you just cannot stop. It's in your blood and you love it. Anyways, those guys back then, 2006, they were all riding baggers, and we were gonna do a long trip through Wyoming, up into Montana, and they wanted to bring a chase vehicle, and I'm like, "What the? Are you guys fucking kidding me? You're on baggers." I'm like, we don't need a chase vehicle. Like, strap your shit on your bike, right? And they're like, "Well, fine then. You're not putting any of your junk in the chase vehicle." And so, just to spite them, I'm like, "I'll build a trailer and drag a trailer up to Sturgis just to spite you guys." And they're like, "Yeah, sure you will." So a week before Sturgis, I built a trailer, welded on some hitch mounts, made my own hitch, 1 7/8 ball, and this long crazy trailer with 2 wheels in the back. I went to Harbor Freight and I bought one of their trailer kits for like $69. It was so funny, but I used the wheels, the axle, the neck, and then just made my own frame in a box. And I had a box with I put my hammock in there, and I had a cooler in there, and a toolbox, all my crap. Yeah. And it was pretty rad. And then dragged that thing all the way through Wyoming, up into Montana, everywhere, just to spite those guys. It was so funny. They were laughing so hard, and the trailer was pretty long. The bike was long back then. So from the front tire to the back of the trailer was 18 feet. Like, I mean, it would barely fit in this garage. Yeah. It was just ridiculous. But super fun to ride, super fun to pull. Actually worked really well. It was, took a little bit to stop it, but it actually handled really well. It was funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you took the trailer off right when you got back.
Yep. I got back, cut those goofy mounts off. Gave the trailer to a friend of mine who actually still has it, and he pulls it around with his Honda CR-V car. It's so funny.
Shit.
Yeah, it's like his little utility trailer. He still uses that goofy thing. But yeah, I was like, okay, it was a one and done thing, just so I didn't have to throw my shit in their chase vehicle. Yeah. It's cheating, No way. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've ridden this thing all over, besides just going up and down to Sturgis.
Yeah, I've ridden it all over. I did one of those. I did an iron butt. We were talking about that. I did an iron butt on it.
And you're pretty adamant about doing 1,000 miles in a day on all the motorcycles you own, right?
Yeah, that's kind of a given. You got to do it on every bike you own.
So do you want to share any experiences about doing that on this?
Yeah, the first time I did 1,024 on this one. I did it through Colorado on all 2-lane roads, which was pretty rad. Like really twisty mountain roads, which is perfect for a bike like this. A lot of guys do the 1,000-mile rides and they get on the interstate. This is, as anybody that has being a Shovelhead and a rigid frame, interstate is not where they're happy, Like it'll run 70 miles all day, but where it's fun is mountain roads, twisty roads, because it just handles like it's on rails, and so, you're accelerating, decelerating, going around corners, and so I planned out, kind of mapped out this really bitchin' ride all through Colorado, and all 2-lane roads, and I made it 700 miles, and the headlight went out, in which I was so pissed at myself, because I had the same headlight on there for years, and I bought a real high lumen bulb off of Amazon and put it in there the night before. So I'm like, in case I get caught in the dark, and that fucking thing took a crap on the first ride. I was so mad at myself. So anyways, that was at mile 700.
Yeah.
And it was clear down. It was south of Buena Vista. And I was trying to beat some rain. Well, I ended up riding through the rain. I tried to fix the headlight, and there was a small auto parts store I found, but I couldn't get the bulb. Not an auto parts store. It was a gas station, really, down in Buena Vista. So I rode home in the dark in the rain for about an hour, no headlight at all. And I was holding a stupid mag light, because in my toolkit I've got a mag light. I held a mag light. That's it. I mean, it was worthless. And so I just got right behind a car and just stayed right on his ass. So he knew I was there, and I had a tail light. So, and it, so as fast as that guy went, I went just all the way through the mountains and back. And so I did the last 300 miles, no headlight at all, in the dark.
No way.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not bailing, The bike's running great. I felt great. I'm like, I'm not gonna bail after 700 miles. That's not, you don't want to go back and do it another day,
Yeah,
not when you're that far into it.
Wow.
Yep.
That is awesome.
Lots of good memories, a lot of good trips on this thing. I rode it to Detroit one year. I wanted to go see Detroit. This was like in 2015. So I rode it out to Minneapolis, picked up a friend there, and then we rode through Chicago, around through Flint, Detroit, and then up to Saginaw. Took the ferry back across to the Harley Museum. So I actually had it at the Harley Museum. That was kind of cool, First time I'd ever been to the Harley Museum. I was on this bike. That was a cool trip. Sturgis with my boys a few times. Born Free, took it out to Born Free one year. I didn't ride Bow and Chase Road out there. I just met him out there. Trailer kind of cheated. I was busy at the time. But yeah, a lot of good memories. A lot of shows. They used to do a show. They used to do a show. It was a ride-in show in Sturgis, and they would have a Shovelhead only day. That was really fun. I'd always put it in that, and that was always a good time. It's always fun to hit the small shows,
Yeah.
So people always dig it, and now Shovelhead's old, so you go up to Sturgis and everybody's freaking out that you're on a Shovelhead, It's kind of cool.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I think it's so cool just as long as I've known Bow and Chase, and then I've always seen this bike and having it, for 20 years and redoing it and redoing it. And I remember, there'd be times where, we'd be staying in this house and we'd be sleeping, wake up and hear you going for a ride. And we're like, man, really, really awesome.
Yeah. I've done a lot of miles on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 motor rebuilds. 1 complete motor rebuild.
So
2 top ends. And
one bottom end in the last 24 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's some reliability right there.
Yeah, it is. From what they say, they used to say back in the day, you could get, you get about 30,000 miles or so out of a top end, and then a Harley bottom end would last about 100. That's what kind of they used to say. Early on, I didn't have a speedo on there. I do now. I have a digital speedometer because I'm running that 5-speed tranny. So I have a digital pickup, so it's actually super accurate, which is nice. I have 2 trip meters, a voltage meter, all that stuff into kind of a modern speedometer. So I can keep track of the miles, and I zeroed it when I rebuilt the motor completely. And that was in 2015 or 2016. I did a complete motor rebuild. Because I lost the motor. I was telling you that I lost the motor when I was in Sturgis one year. The bottom end started knocking. So I brought it back, took it to Scott, a local motor builder, and he went through everything, and he's like, yeah, dude, your motor was done. The bottom end, the crank was completely spun. It was half wore out. I had broken valve springs, a bent push rod. My lifters were shot. It was done. And so I zeroed my odometer, and that was about 35,000 miles ago that I've got on it now. So I probably have I'm guessing, but about 70,000 miles on this motor since I've had it. 1,000 as a basket case. He rode it all the way through the 90s, so who knows how many miles he put on it.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that the bottom end it probably was close to that 100,000 miles.
Absolutely.
When I lost the bottom end, so it's got a lot of miles on it.
Yeah.
And
no leaks.
No leaks. It's a leak-free, completely 100% leak-free Shovelhead. Imagine that.
Yeah, you're one of very few people that can say that, I think.
Yeah. I don't have to put cardboard under it. Nothing. There's no leakies. But I'm also running that 5-speed tranny, which I think is a big part of that no leak thing.
Yeah.
5-speed trannies work really well. It's funny. I love riding an Evo with a 4-speed behind it, but a Shovelhead with a 5-speed is really cool.
Yeah.
They work really well because it's just a 4-speed is just 4th gear, 5th gear. They're 1-to-1 gear ratio. So a 5-speed is really just a close ratio 4-speed.
Yeah.
And they work really well with the Shovelhead. It's fun.
Did you always have a 4-speed on it, or a 5-speed when it was in the long bike and everything?
Yeah, same. That's a mid-90s soft tail 5-speed that I put a kicker kit on it, and right from the jump, cut that boss off for attaching a starter. I can never attach a starter to it now. I've kind of destroyed the cases to do that. So it's just a kick only 5-speed. That's all I've ever ran.
Yeah.
I wanted a 5-speed originally. Now I kind of wish, like nostalgic reasons, I should have maybe kept that 4-speed, but whatever. It works. It fits the bike. It kind of fits the style of it too, and it has a kicker on it, which is cool, and it doesn't leak. I don't touch it. I've rebuilt the BDL. It's got a BDL belt drive on it, BDL clutch, and I did have to rebuild the whole clutch basket one time many years ago. So those BDLs, they go for a long time. It's crazy. Yeah. I wore a set of clutch plates out, but maybe 50,000 miles or something crazy.
Yeah.
Bought another set of clutch plates for $50 and go do it again.
And do you think there's any version 4 in the future, or is this how the bike's going to live?
I think I'm done with it. It was funny. I was talking. Obviously, I'm really influenced by my sons, both Bo and Chase. They build really rad shit. They're super knowledgeable. All three of us have been in motorcycles. I obviously, got them into motorcycles at a young age, but now they've taken the old bikes and the styling them and all that stuff just to a completely different level, And so, like when I was kind of putting this together, I told them my what I was thinking, and they're like, yeah, that'd be cool, but if they're not going to let me make any mistakes, style mistakes,
Yeah.
like if I wanted to put some goofy bars on there, some like the bars that were on it were really funny, kind of like a Chopper Inc. style bar. That that was that style back then,
like the T-bars, but there's kind of V out.
Right,
in the middle,
exactly. Some of that goofy shit. Like they're not gonna let me make any mistakes, which is good. They help me out in that respect. But it was funny. I was talking about like maybe I should put some cool spoke wheels on it, maybe put some star hubs on it, whatever. And both my boys, they've ridden this a lot. They've ridden it up and down Lookout a ton, and they love riding it. It's really fun to ride. It works really well because I've had it so long. It's so dialed in. Everything just works so well. They're like, don't fuck with it, Dad. Like just leave that thing alone. Build another bike.
Yeah.
So that's when I built that Panhead. So I'm glad I didn't touch it. It does totally work. It still kind of has that 90s kind of tough guy kind of feel, which is what I'm all about, anyways. I mean, that's my whole era. I totally dig it, Love that shit. The speed holes, all of it,
Yeah.
Dual disc front end, all that stuff. It's cool. It works. But I'm done with it. As far as like restyling it, it's got a really cool stance. It's fun to ride. It's timeless. Like that's it.
Yeah. I think because now that the tough guy bikes are so popular in like the chopper scene and everything. But this was cool before that was cool. Like you had this, right. And it was. And now that everyone's kind of catching up to you. That's the way that I see it.
That's cool. Right. It is funny how everything comes around.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, back when I was reading Easy Rider magazine when I was over in Guam in the military, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to build a chopper and this and that, and then, that then it kind of went to this tough guy thing. And by the time I actually started building my first bike, it was more of a tough guy chopper.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, the rad stuff with the, with the big tall pipes and the wassail tank and the, it's just guys were building, bikes to boogie.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool whenever there's a bike that, like, one of us will ride, and I'll be at the bow and chase, and I'm like, dude, that chopper feels crazy. Like, it feels so tight and everything's good. And they're both just like, man, you need to ride my dad's Shovelhead. It feels like a showroom floor bike. And they all, for years, they've always said that. So it's really cool to be able to sit here and talk to you about it and get the lowdown. And
oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
Really appreciate it.
That's what we need to do. Instead of me riding this damn thing, we need to put you on it.
Oh,
that's what we need to do. We'll get a little footage of that. You need to take this thing and go rip around for a while.
Man. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome, Tyler. Thanks.
Cool.